R.A.I.D or R.A.I.D. So the source is hellotech.com. What is R.A.I.D and what does it mean? R.A.I.D is an acronym for Redundant Array of Independent Drives, or DIS. R.A.I.D lets you take several hard drives and group them as one unit. This can help you store backups of your data in case a drive fails, or improve the speed and efficiency of your drives, or both. There are many types of RAID configurations, but the most commonly used are RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, and RAID 10 or RAID 10. What is RAID 0? So visually, this is RAID 0, wherein we have two disks, and you notice that the data being written, these disks are different. So we have A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, and A8. Now, RAID 0 is also called disk stripping. RAID 0 is all about optimizing the speed of your hard drives. If you have at least two drives using RAID 0 will combine them and write data on both of them simultaneously or sequentially, depending on your system. So this will help with read and write speeds. However, if one drive fails, you will lose all of your data. When you save a file, RAID 0 breaks the data into segments called stripped units. Then it spreads that data across all the drives in your array. This is called stripping, and it helps you access data faster because you have multiple drives working together to read, write, and store data. Using RAID 0 is faster than getting a large hard drive with the same capacity because you would only have one hard drive processing data instead of multiple drives in an array. However, RAID 0 does not include any redundancy or backups. That means if one of your drive fails, you lose all the data on that drive. And since your data is stored and processed across multiple drives, losing the data on one drive means you lose all of the data on all of your drives. Plus, since you are using multiple disks, the chance that one of them will fail is increased. RAID 0 is best used for storing temporary files or files that you have backed up elsewhere. Now, what is RAID 1? Now, visually, this is RAID 1, and if you're going to look at this one is identical to this, or this segment is the same as this segment, and the same is true with this A2, A2, A3, A3, and A4, A4. So more or less you have an idea of what is RAID 1. So otherwise known as disk mirroring, RAID 1 is all about backing up data, also known as redundancy. If you have at least two drives, using RAID 1 will duplicate your data and store a copy on each drive. This is called mirroring, and it ensures you won't lose your files if a drive fails. So if a drive fails, using RAID 1 means that if one drive fails, you'll still have a copy of all your data on the other drive. Then you can replace the failed drive with a new one. Then even while the computer is still running, it will automatically create a new mirror image of all your data on the good drive. This capability in RAID arrays is called hot swappable. However, using RAID 1 means that you will only get half the storage capacity that you would get otherwise. This is because every time you save a file to one drive, you save a copy to a second drive. RAID 1 is best used for storing data that you don't want to lose, such as crucial banking data or family photos and documents. What is RAID 5? So if you're going to look at RAID 5, So we have several, let's say we have 4 drives here. So this is a different segment, another segment, another segment. But on the last one, we have what we call the parity. Same is true with this. So another parity here, and another parity here, and another parity here. Also known as this stripping with parity. RAID 5 is about speed and redundancy. If you have at least 3 hard drives, using RAID 5 will break your data into segments and save those segments across your drive. So here you have to have at least 3 hard drives. But for RAID 1 and RAID 0, you have to have at least 2 drives. But for RAID 5, you have to at least have 3 hard drives. Now, when you write data in this array, just like in RAID 0, your data is broken down into units and spread over the hard drives in your array. But aside from stripping the data, it also stores parity bits on the drives. A parity bit is an additional binary digit that helps your array check if there's any error or missing segments. These bits of data can also serve as redundancies. Just like with this mirroring, the drives in this array are also hot swappable. So if one drive fails, you can easily replace it with a new one, and the array will automatically recreate your RAID configuration. However, RAID 5 will not offer you the same speed as RAID 1 or the same capacity as RAID 0. It will take processing power to create the parity bits, and some storage space will be set aside for the redundancies. So if you have 3 hard drives with 500 gigabytes of storage each, you will only get 1 terabyte of capacity because 1/3 of the space will be allocated for redundancies. This setup is best for storing critical data and running applications that need decent speed and efficiency. Now we also have RAID 10 or RAID 1.0. So RAID 1.0, as you can see in the image, is a combination of RAID 0 and RAID 1. So we have here RAID 1 and RAID 1, and both are combined in RAID 0. That's why for RAID 1, we have the same data segments. Here also the same data segments, but the segments here are different from the segments here. So it's a combination of RAID 0 and RAID 1. Now classified as a hybrid RAID configuration, RAID 1.0 is actually a combination of RAID 1 and 0. This means you get the speed of this stripping and the redundancies of this mirroring. For techies, this is called a stripe of mirrors. If you have at least 4 drives, RAID 1.0 will increase the speed that you would have with just 1 drive, and you get the advantages of having redundancies. However, this also means that you have to buy more drives, and you only get half the capacity of all of them. RAID 1.0 is best for running applications or hosting servers that need to be up 24/7. If 1 or 2 of your drives fail, you still have the mirror drive with all your data intact in them. Now, what type of RAID should I use? For no RAID, this is good if you are able to endure several hours of downtime and or data loss due while you restore your site from backups. So if you can afford to have several hours of downtime or even data loss, then you may not use any RAID. RAID 0 is good if data is unimportant and can be lost, but performance is critical. For RAID 1, good if you're looking for inexpensively gain additional data redundancy and or read speeds. And this is good base level for those looking to achieve high uptime and increase the performance of backups. RAID 5 or RAID 6, 5 and 6, good if you have web servers, high read environments, or extremely large storage arrays as a single object. This will perform worse than RAID 1 on writes. If your environment is write heavy or you don't need more space than is allowed on a disk with RAID 1, RAID 1 is likely a more efficient option. RAID 1.0 is a good all-around solution that provides additional read and write speed as well as additional redundancy. So how can you install RAID? You can make use of your operating system. So you can use with your operating system Windows 10 or maybe Linux. So thank you for viewing this video.